We find ourselves in the year 2013, following the star-crossed love story of Romeo and Juliet. They are two teenagers that are madly in love, yet are attending high schools that strongly hate one another. Our story begins with Juliet and Paris, Juliet's soon-to-be husband, dancing together at the local Young Life party.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
After breaking it down with Juliet, Paris had to leave to take an important phone call. Romeo took advantage and grabbed Juliet's hand. As they drew closer and closer, it was none other than love at first sight. Because their love for each other was so intense, Romeo returned to Juliet's house later on that day. "Oh, Romeo, he's just so perfect and hot. I just wish he would be my husband." Juliet was one fine lady. "She's gonna be my wife." Once they realized that they were actually talking about one another only 10 feet apart, they agreed to get married the next day. Romeo went down to Friarette Lauren's office to talk a little bit about his plans. Romeo spoke of his passionate love for this Juliet after only knowing her for a solid 2 hours. And though she was skeptical, Lauren finally decided to marry the two lovebirds. Juliet was ecstatic, to say the least, when she finally heard the news. Meanwhile, on the football field, the long-time hatred between Vista Ridge and Cedar Park continued. Tybalta and Mercutio constantly bickered back and forth, until finally the war began. After the hard-fought game, Mercutio was left to die. This treacherous murder of a fellow Timberwolf angered the mighty Romeo. Tybalta had to die. Because of Romeo's violent act, he was immediately banished from Cedar Park. After Romeo was banished, even Juliet's closest friend didn't think she should marry him. Juliet felt hurt, sad, and utterly alone. Juliet decided to go to the only person she had left, Friarette Lauren. Lauren devised a plan to make a potion that would put Juliet in a death-like coma. Once Romeo had returned, Juliet would awake and all would be fixed. Up away in her room, Juliet said one final prayer and drank the potion. Later that day, Romeo's homeboy rolled up in an Escalade, delivering the message of Juliet's death. The message made Romeo distraught. He knew something had to be done. Romeo came to the conclusion that he would rather die than live without Juliet, so he rolled up to the local drug dealer and was given the suicide drink. When Romeo arrived at Juliet's tomb, his devastation became a reality. As he took in her beauty one final time and bid her farewell, Romeo drank his last drop. When the friar appeared at the tomb, his plans had already been foiled. Juliet looked down in anguish at her limp lover. The friarette could not bear any longer and left, full of sorrow. Juliet was left with only her dead husband and her heartbroken tears. Juliet drowned in her tears, and her heart beat no longer. And Romeo and Juliet lay side by side forever.